Hello J-Fusion fans and welcome back to another vlog. In today's video, we are going to take an in-depth look at Kamen Rider Zi-O's power-ups. Now, before I continue on with this video, I would like to place a spoiler warning if you guys haven't caught up with the latest episodes yet, or if you guys haven't started watching Kamen Rider Zi-O yet. I really recommend starting from the beginning, so when you watch this video or when you continue on with this video, you would get an understanding of what I am going to talk about. So with that out of the way, or if you really don't mind being spoiled, we can just move on with the video. So from what I've seen so far watching Kamen Rider Zi-O, I've noticed that his power-ups split into two branches, namely the forms that require legend riders and the forms or power-ups that are only Zi-O based, or powers that are only utilizing Kamen Rider Zi-O's powers. So to illustrate my points, I have here my Sodo figures. So this is the Ryuki Ride armor and Zi-O 2, for example. So let's take a look first at the Ride armors taken from Legend Kamen Riders. So speaking of Ryuki, by the way, this never appeared in the show, at least so far. It hasn't appeared yet, but the Ryuki Ride Watch has been used in conjunction with the Decade Armor, although this is Exade form, by the way. So we have seen the Ryuki Ride Watch in action in the Rider Time Kamen Rider Ryuki spin-off. So anyways, so for these kinds of ride armors, Sogo needed to go back to the past and get the corresponding ride watch needed to defeat the another riders. And that has been quite the premise early on. So there's another rider. Zi-O has to get the needed or the necessary ride watch in order to defeat the said another rider, such as in episode 1 and 2, for example, where Kamen Rider build's powers are taken by the another build, and Sogo needed to use the build ride watch in order to defeat the said another rider. So these ride armors actually serve as a slight power up for Kamen Rider Zi-O. Now, for some context, the Kamen Rider Zi-O's base attack stats, he has 8.2 tons of punching power and 19 tons of kicking power. Using an armor like this, for example, would at least push his punching power up to 10 tons at the minimum, and I've seen his kicking power increase to about 23 to 25 tons, depending on the armor used. But again, like I've said, you have a slight power boost using these kinds of armors. Now, that has been the case until we get the first actual power-up in the show, which is the Decade Armor. Now, I don't have the actual Kamen Rider Decade Armor because I honestly didn't like that much. So, here we have the Kamen Rider Decade Armor Exade Form XXR. So, like I've said earlier, Zi-O gets a power boost using the ride armors, and with the Exade armor, the power boosts are significantly increased. So, for example, a form like this would have 20 tons of punching power and about 40 tons of kicking power. And you have the added bonus of the right Hay Saber for attacks. And of course, using the decade armor and its effects, you can actually use another ride watch in conjunction to get forms like these. So as I've said earlier, we also see the Ryuki ride watch being used in conjunction with this one, and by far that's the only form that I've seen based on a Heisei Kamen Rider's final form. Considering that the Survive form is the only upgrade that Ryuki has anyway. So these are the powers that require legend riders. Now, on to power-ups that are exclusively Kamen Rider GOs. So we have here the GO2, which is actually the first upgrade in this second branch. Now, of course, we see this being accessed by using the GO Ride Watch 2. And if you noticed, this form never had the compatibility of, with the ride watches that I've mentioned earlier, such as these. And this is why I've said that this kind of power-up belongs to another branch. So for this form, we actually have some increase in power. I believe it's about... I'm actually checking the Kamen Rider Wikia right now to get context. So this one has 25.2 tons of punching power and 58.3 tons of kicking power. So thank you, Wikia. So you also have the added bonus of the Saikyo Girade, and you can use it in conjunction with the Jikan Girade. Now I actually have another Jikan Girade here, which is actually taken from the Ryuki armor. So anyway, I just put it in there. But again, you have a slightly higher attack parameter, but with this form, you don't need to use a Legend Rider's Ride Watch in order to defeat another rider. In fact, this form made its debut and was initially used to defeat the another Ryuga. Coincidentally, I have the Ryuki armor right here, so there's the connection. So again, with this kind of form, you don't need to access other ride armors, which is why ever since this form had its debut, Sogo has been using it almost exclusively to fight most enemies, even the another GO. So yeah, and you also have the added benefit of like being able to see into the future. However, if the enemy can move fast enough, that ability is negated, such as for example, Gates revives Shippu mode. So it can move so fast that GO2 couldn't even read its movements. So that's one limitation of this power. However, this is indeed powerful enough to fight against most another riders without having to rely on the powers of other Legend Heisei riders. So we also have that to consider. So next, well, I don't have any illustration for this, so I don't have any figures, by the way, for the next power-up that I'm going to talk about. So we have the Geo Trinity, which comes after Geo 2. So Geo Trinity basically belongs to the same branch as Geo 2, but I think it's actually the oddball of the bunch, because while technically it's not reliant on Legend Heisei riders, it is somewhat dependent on other riders namely gates and walls. So it has the ability of using the skills by it depends on which persona is dominant, but usually it's still Sogo in control, and it also has the ability to summon the Jikan's axe and Jikan's spear and use them together in battle. So again, it's basically Kamen Rider Zi-O using uh, Gates and Waz's powers simultaneously. But again, no legend riders involved, so that's why I put them in this branch of power ups. Now, moving on to the final forms. Yes, I've said forms instead of form. Now, uh, I know this is already going a bit into the spoiler territory, so be warned. So we now have the Grand Geo having debuted a few days ago prior to this recording, and it we get that Grand Geo ride watch when Sogo completes all the Heisei Rider ride watches, and they just came together and formed the Grand Geo ride watch. So in this form, Kamen Rider Geo gets to use all the abilities of Kamen Riders. Actually, he summons them to perform various finishers, and he can even summon their weapons. So, for example, he Grand Geo was able to summon both Kuga and Build, and then later use their weapons. So, uh, Grand Geo summons Kamen Rider Kuga to perform the Mighty Kick, and then later on uses the Titan Sword, and Grand Geo summons the Kamen Rider Build to perform a Rider Kick, and then uses the Full Bottle Buster as well. And with the powers of Geo also included, he was able to actually stop time and even rewind it a bit, especially when he summoned Kamen Rider O's. So the attack hits the another Den O, which was the enemy at that time, and then he rewinds it, summons the Full Bottle Buster, converts it into the Buster mode, which is the gun mode, and then shoots the another Deno, and then resets time so that Kamen Rider Oz's Rider Kick hits the another Den-O one more time. So that is at least how Grand Geo works. Now for the final forms in the other branch, which is the Geo exclusive branch. So we have Oma Zi-O as well. So this is what happens when Sogo completely falls into darkness. So of course, we can say that Sogo is also the main antagonist of the show if and when he becomes Oma Zi-O. And if you look closely, he has a different kind of belt. Well, this is actually, I guess, if you guys can see, the yeah. But basically, this form is accessed by using the Oma Zi-O ride watch, and whatever belt this is. So we'll just call it the Oma Jiku driver. So yeah. Now we do see a lot of ride watches on his chest, but this form never actually utilizes any ride armors. However, in earlier episodes, especially during the debut of the Decade armor, This form was actually able to summon like rider attacks by just pressing a ride watch. Like for example, using the Ryuki ride watch, again mentioning this one. So just pressing the Ryuki ride watch grants Oma Zi-O the ability to summon Drag Redder, and like using the Kiva ride watch allows Oma Zi-O to summon bats and attack the enemies. Kuga ride watch enables him to do Kuga's mighty kick. So you have those abilities, but they don't usually, or they never rather, became armors for Oma Zi-O. However, Zi-O Oma form, if you guys look closely at the footage or the scans, Zi-O Oma form actually utilizes the same Oma ride watch. Yes, I've taken a closer look myself, and it actually is accessed by using the Zi-O Oma ride watch. But if you notice the difference in the design of the suits, so yes, Oma Zi-O is basically gold, but he still has a black base body. But if you compare that to Zi-O Oma form, Zi-O Oma form's bodysuit alone is already completely gold. So, like I've said earlier, Oma Zi-O is the final form that you get when Sogo completely falls into darkness, and Zi-O Oma form is the form that Sogo gets when he actually, breaks free of that darkness and eventually becomes the benevolent king that he always wanted to be. A couple of similarities, like Zi-O Oma maintains these watch hands, which kind of serve as his cape. The difference is like this watch band right here, instead of like a diagonal position, like it's around his chest armor horizontally. Basically, this one becomes his chest armor, and that one looks a bit wider. So yeah. So for the abilities of Zi-O Oma form, well, because the movie isn't out yet, that's something for all of us to see for ourselves in the future. But basically, whatever this guy can do, Zi-O Oma form can do better in a basic sense, because it's technically the form that Sogo that's going to use in order to defeat this guy once and for all. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. So please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what you think about today's video. So anyways, again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!